All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Kieran, Group Business Director at Acast, the world's largest independent podcast company. Thank you. Working with some of the biggest names in podcasting, including Casefile, Tony Ryan, We Mean Well, and Alpha Blokes, to name a few. I've been in the podcast game for over 5 years now, and I think we can all agree, and like everyone has mentioned earlier on, the landscape has changed immensely, from kind of just your standard spots and dots to full integrated omni-channel partnerships, as video becomes more and more prevalent in today's society. So today's conversation is a great example of that shift. Like Nat said, joining me is Jordan from Mindshare and Anthony from Electronic Arts. Welcome, gents. We're going to unpack how Electronic Arts approached the launch of EA Sports differently, moving beyond a traditional campaign launch and into something far more community-led, creator-driven, and culturally embedded. All right, let's get straight into it, because I know we're a bit behind time. So EA Sports FC, so formerly known as FIFA, is already a powerhouse franchise. Anthony, what was the core business objective behind this launch?
So our objective was essentially to reconnect with our players and also to reinforce our commitment to positive play. So positive play for EA is all about driving inclusivity, open and welcoming gaming experiences in and outside of the titles themselves. And so for us, I'm sure everyone's familiar with EA Sports FC. A lot of us have grown up with FIFA. It's a long-lasting franchise. It's been around for 33 years. I've grown up with it. So essentially, every year we're looking at a new iteration. You're looking to expect a new iteration. This year, so FC 26 was all about how EA has responded to player feedback throughout the title. And so as a result of that, we needed to also respond as a brand and change our brand tone in how we sort of responded to player feedback as well. And that needed to reflect in our advertising behaviour. And so essentially that takes us back to our objective of essentially reconnecting with our players, but reinforcing our commitment to positive play, and essentially opens up our pathways of how we can sort of drive multi-directional conversations as well.
33 years, that's wild. I remember playing FIFA as a kid, but it's incredible to see that it's still so culturally relevant today and that they're kind of taking on board the feedback from the players. I love that. So Jordan, why did you recommend podcasting as one of the channels for the launch of this campaign?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously with the new iteration every single year, it becomes quite a challenge to sort of try and convert that broader audience. You've obviously got the footballing fanatics and, you know, the competitive players and whatnot that are going to dive into the game no matter what. We basically just go, hey guys, comes out end of September, they're there, they're probably pre-ordering in a month out. But then you've got the much broader audience, you know, you, as the boys would say, typical, you know, punters and dribblers that may need a little bit more of a push to sort of recognise, okay, what's the new title bringing? You know, why am I coming back? I can still play FC 25 with my mates. I don't need FC 26. So when we start talking about why we challenged this, we wanted to, one, evolve the sort of the influencer space, that the way that EA works on that internally. And then we also wanted to sort of embolden that by driving into a community that we think links really closely with the audience that we ultimately want to talk to. And so from there, we thought, okay, we step into the podcasting space, we know the talent that we want to utilise, we're going to hand over the creative reins to them to ensure that it's coming across as authentic as possible, and you know, try and avoid that hashtag ad that you get with a lot of you know, typical editorial work.
Yeah, perfect. Well, yeah, spoiler alert, they partnered with Hello Sport. So Hello Sport is one of Australia's most listened to sports podcasts and is currently sitting at number 3 on the Spotify Sport podcast charts. It's hosted by Tom and Eddie, and they just chat about sport with unqualified opinion and unwavering bias. So Anthony, why Hello Sport specifically, and what kind of made them the right alignment for this FC launch?
So I think from an EA perspective, gaming is full of communities, and there's a lot of micro communities that are formed as part within our titles. So I think for us, there's sort of 3 considerations when we looked at partnering with Hello Sport. The first is that community base, and so EA is a global brand, but it is also a local brand to a lot of us. A lot of us have grown up with this. We have our own experiences, our own authentic experiences with EA from a local lens. And so as a global brand, we need to resonate with our audience in a local way, and also ensure that we have that authenticity with how we engage with them. At the same time, we also look at, you know, when you look at the sporting landscape, it's a growing, we all know it's a growing landscape, but sporting fandom has grown in the last few years. We saw that with with the growing fandom across the Matildas and their success as well with the Women's World Cup. We've also seen that interest in football or soccer in Australia. That's grown 44% in the last few years as well. So we are seeing incremental growth of audiences within the market, and in Australia being a growth market for sport, but also for football globally. So at the same time, we're looking at how we can talk to these communities and drive incremental audiences with scale as well. And then I think from the third perspective, coming into this campaign, as part of our objective, we were challenged in how we can run or talk to multi-directional conversations. And that was as our brand response to how we had made adjustments to our actual title and used player feedback to improve the in-game experience. And so at the same time, we were looking at channels and partners that were able to assist to do that as well. Yeah.
Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, why Hello Sport? I mean, there was a little bit of, I think, a personal push from myself and another bloke on the team. But, I mean, to your point, right, like Australia is so ingrained in sport. I think on average, individuals follow upwards of like 4 to 5 sports. So it's quite diverse in terms of how you talk to it. So obviously we can do a job by going into, football specific podcasts and just talking to people, again, those football fanatics. But I think to get into a podcast that have a wide spread of interest, they talk about NRL, they talk about cricket, they're on the Olympics at the moment. There's plenty of sort of options to sort of pique a lot of different interests. And, when we sort of start looking at the integration itself and sort of understanding, that push again of going more into video podcasting and less about just the audio play, I think these guys have got a presence outside of just audio. Like you find the old saying of like, you've got a face for radio and all this other kind of stuff. I think these boys carry themselves quite well on video as well, so it sort of allows us to expand ourselves to go, we're comfortable with the brand being, in their podcast on YouTube rather than around it, Dave, and sort of building that out further to their social presence.
Yeah, perfect. Like this campaign was a true omni-channel campaign. It had host read sponsorships of the podcast, it had Instagram Reels, and had video host reads on YouTube. And from the ACAST 2025 Podcast Pulse report, we actually know that if you add video podcasts to your audio buy, it will actually extend your reach by 30%. So not only are you driving incremental reach, but you're really kind of driving that real deep engagement on multiple platforms. I don't know if this video is going to play, but I'll give it a go. So this is one of the Instagram Reels that we had. We've cut it down from 3 minutes to 30 seconds to show you guys.
All right, we are here playing EAFC 26. The bet is myself and Eddie are taking on Cody. We've got the best team in the game, Real Madrid. Cody's got the Kerala Blasters from India.
One of the worst. Half a star. Attacks 49, ours is 88.
Cody beats us, we purchase him this game. If we beat him, he is our slave for a day.
For a day, full day, 24 hours.
How are you guys feeling, more importantly?
I don't know how to even change players.
Oh no! Oh no! Ah! Jesus! Not good. We've got work to do.
I want a rematch.
So as you can see, Cody actually won, so he did not have to be the boys' slave for the day, which was good. So guys, we've talked about the strategy. Now let's look at what actually happened when the campaign went live. So we saw great results, including a 106% increase in familiarity and a 131% increase in favorability for podcast listeners. Jordan, why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, I think I touched on it briefly before, but for me personally, handing over the reins to sort of, have full creative control, I think one can sometimes be tough for a client to do because obviously they've got a lot of guardrails and, up until mentioned at the front end of this, I thought saying FIFA was like saying Voldemort. So, so it's sort of one of those things where, if we're able to completely embed within them, we're seeing the fruits of that labour where I think, when I was looking at some of their social work, a lot of the comments, most of them weren't really even recognising it as an ad. There was people asking if it was an ad, and which I think just sort of leads into that sense that we're talking to the right people in the right way, where they're not even really going, oh, this is an ad, I don't want to interact with this sort of thing. So, and I think that was, ultimately reflected in the results.
Yeah, like it's completely natural, like you wouldn't even think. It's kind of just like one of their segments they would do. on the podcast and on YouTube as well. So it's just a natural alignment.
And that's how their host read felt as well. It wasn't like this real stop-start sort of, ad read. It was very much like sort of almost just a switch to a different conversation where they talk about, why they care about it and sort of their history with the game as well, which we have seen, success with in the past. So it's good to sort of build on that to other channels.
Yeah. And so we're seeing increased demand from brands to align with podcasters beyond the mic to access their wider ecosystem. Like we saw in the report, it was the number 2 reason why advertisers are investing in digital audio. So Anthony, is this something that EA will be considering for future campaigns?
Absolutely. I think, to be honest, I feel like we've only really just touched the surface, and I think there's definitely, as the gaming landscape moves into more of a live service environment, I think there's definitely opportunity to look at how we can sort of elevate how we're partnering with our partners within audio, but also to, there's an opportunity to look at how we can be more agile and more dynamic from a creative perspective as well. And I think, to the point where Stephen made earlier as well, I think there's definitely longevity in how we can maintain our presence within our audio, within our partners, and within our audio environments. So FC is a title that launches every year. We know that, but I think there's an ongoing conversation around football and around sport, and I think there's definitely an opportunity there that we can sort of continue to build content around that. I think for us, definitely only just really touch the surface of this, and there is opportunity to sort of elevate that further.
Great. So I should expect a brief coming from you for Hello Sport. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, I think we will throw it to the audience for any questions. Yes. Harry.
I wanted to know from a brand safety perspective in choosing the likes of Hello Sport or anything of kind of what they are recognised for. How did you guys find mediating that, and how, when you went into, I guess, campaign, were you able to manage your expectations as well as not taking away from their, let's say, more creative choice of words?
So I think from our perspective, there's a, when you're tapping into certain communities as well and certain gaming culture, there's an element where you do need to look at driving that authenticity. And I think that's where we really need to lean on. We talk about authenticity, but there's a line where, as a brand, you need to sort of acknowledge how do we resonate with our audience in an authentic way. And I think if you're asking creators or talent, podcasts, it doesn't matter who it is, so whether it's audio, visual, if you're asking them to essentially change the manner and direction in how they're talking to their audiences, you're failing from the beginning, to be honest, in my opinion. I think that's where you'd really need to look at how can you maintain that authenticity up front, that true sort of authentic approach. At the same time, there are, as a brand, there are sort of guardrails in how you can address certain elements. So I think there's just an open dialogue, an open conversation in what those boundaries are and how you approach that with the team. But I think that's, for us, it's just that open communication in planning and from a brand perspective, being very clear on the brand tone that we definitely want to achieve, but at the same time, aligning with the team that you're also partnering with. Yeah,
there was plenty of pretty raw conversations, I think, between me and Anthony back and forth, just in terms of, me almost arguing some of those points to him about, like, come on, we've got to, we've got to toe a line here, but we very much need to try and keep it as authentic as possible. I think one of the only bits of feedback we got from their content was, can we just remove a couple swear words? So there was still a couple swears in there, so it still felt sort of there, but, we dialed it down a little bit while still sort of kind of keeping it within the realm of it feeling like it fits within the broader sense of their content.
Any other questions?
I had a question around obviously being quite a tangible product in sales. We're looking at brand results here. Was there any way you were able to measure uplift in sales or ROI from this?
Don't start off.
It's a constant conversation.
Yeah.
I think it hit the nail on the head in the last session, to be honest. It's a constant conversation for us and something that we're looking at. Sorry, John.
No. Pretty much all I was going to say is the issue raised in the last panel around, using pixels and applying that to different things. Like EA have historically been very anti that. There has been some growth off the back of help working with Anthony in terms of making that a little bit more visible for us. But in terms of things like this, widespread pixel usage or getting that attribution is always tough. It's also hard because when you think about how people purchase FC. It's not just brick and mortar anymore. It's not just, it's on console, it's on PC, it's on Switch. There's so many different storefronts, and being able to work out where someone buys it, particularly off the back of, a multi-platform thing like podcasting now, whether it be on YouTube, Spotify, wherever it may be. We do run into some headwind there, but it is something that we are ultimately trying to get better at because the data's there. It's just about how do we, link them back to tangible media.
Especially as we're starting, you're starting to look at that broader ecosystem in audio. So you're looking at the video content that you're producing, multiple episodes. You're looking at what's happening in the actual audio landscape as well. So I think there's definitely is a lot of focus for us, especially as we expand into it. But yeah, I think we're still. It's a constant conversation. But I agree there needs to be a commitment from both the brand and your partners that you're working with in working through that measurement. It can't be rested on one particular side, and so there does need to be that constant conversation and dialogue, and to be able to unlock that.
Great. I think that's all we have time for. So thank you both very much.